On Christmas Day, my son was crystal clear. We are not going. My wife's parents come first. I did not argue. I did not cry. I just cut off everything I was paying for. The next morning, he was at my door not knowing what to say. It was December 24th, 3 p.m. The turkey was already in the oven. The aroma of rosemary and sage filled every corner of my kitchen. I had been peeling potatoes for an hour. I prepared the stuffing exactly how my Grandma Hazel taught me, the one with raisins, almonds, and a touch of sherry. The dining room table was set with the tablecloth I embroidered 30 years ago when Stephen was just a baby. The crystal glasses I inherited from my mother sparkled under the warm light of the lamp. Everything was ready. Everything was perfect. And then the phone rang. "Hello," I answered, wiping my hands on my apron. "Mom, it's me." Stephen's voice sounded distant cold, as if he were reading from a script someone else had written. "Sweetie, what time are you arriving? Everything is almost ready." "Mom, I have to tell you something." There was a pause that lasted too long. Valerie and I decided that this year we are going to go with her parents. I stood motionless. The fork I had in my hand fell against the kitchen counter. The sound was as dry as the words I had just heard. "Excuse me," I whispered. "It's just that they are alone too, Mom. And well, they are my wife's parents. We have to be there." I felt something break inside my chest. It was not pain. It was something worse. It was absolute clarity. "And what about me, Stephen? I am alone too." "Oh, Mom, don't start with the drama. We will see about next year. Besides, you know how Valerie is with these things. You know her folks come first." They come first. Those 3 words stabbed into my soul like broken glass. I did not scream. I did not cry. I did not beg them to reconsider. I just took a deep breath and said, with a calmness that even I did not recognize, "It is fine, son. Have a nice time. Seriously, you aren't mad. No, sweetie, enjoy your dinner. Give Valerie a hug for me." I hung up the phone. I remained standing in the middle of the kitchen surrounded by food for 10 people, the golden turkey that no one was going to eat, the sweet potato pies that Stephen liked so much, the punch simmering on the stove, the homemade eggnog that I had been preparing since December 20th. All of it for no one. If this story is touching your heart, welcome back to the channel and join our story family to keep sharing tales that need to be heard, because there are truths that cannot be silenced. I sat at the table, alone. I served a plate of turkey, a slice of pie, a little bit of potato salad. I poured myself a glass of sparkling cider, and I ate in silence. The clock in the living room struck 10 at night when I finished washing the dishes. I put all the food away in containers. I knew I was going to throw most of it out. No one would come to take it. No one would ask how my night went. I sat in my favorite armchair, the green velvet one I bought with my very first paycheck as a teacher. I looked at the Christmas tree I had decorated a week before with so much hope. The lights blinked in the dark, reflecting on the ornaments Stephen had hung when he was a boy. At what moment did everything change? At what moment did my son, that boy who cried in my arms every time he fell, turn into this man who left me alone on Christmas Eve without an ounce of guilt? I closed my eyes, and that was when something inside of me woke up. It was not rage. It was not sadness. It was determination. I had not lived 67 years to end up being anyone's plan B, not even my own son's. I got up, went to my bedroom, and took out the copies of all the receipts I kept from my purse. Bank transfer records, payment stubs, account statements. I put them on the bed and started to add them up. $2,000 for monthly rent, 8 months in a row paying for his apartment. The down payment for Valerie's car, $8,000. The living room furniture, $4,500. The loan for the medical emergency, which never existed, $2,500. The utilities, the groceries, the gym, the digital subscriptions. I added it all up. I wrote it all down. In 2 years, I had spent more than $75,000 on them, and I could not even have my son on Christmas Eve because his wife's parents came first. I stared at those papers until 3 in the morning, and when the clock marked December 25th, I made a decision that would change everything. I was not going to scream. I was not going to complain. I was not going to beg. I was going to act. And when I finished, Stephen would understand something he should never have forgotten, that a mother's love cannot be bought. It cannot be negotiated, and it definitely cannot be taken for granted. I picked up my phone, I opened my contact list, and I started dialing numbers, one by one, canceling everything. What they did not know was that the next day their perfect world built on my money was going to collapse like a house of cards, and I was going to be there with my coffee watching how every piece fell. Because sometimes the only way to teach respect is by taking away everything that was given without being deserved. Let me introduce myself as I should have from the beginning. My name is Eleanor Vance. I just turned 67 years old, and if you think I reached this age to allow anyone, not even my own son, to trample on my dignity, you are very mistaken. I was born in rural Ohio in a farmhouse with a wraparound porch and a jasmine bush that my mother cared for as if it were another child. My parents were hardworking people. Dad sold fabrics at the general store in town. Mom baked pies by hand and sold them in the mornings. We never had luxuries, but we never lacked a hot meal on the table either. When I was 22 years old, I met Robert at a church fair. He was tall, with a shy smile and strong hands. He worked as a mechanic at a shop near the town square. I fell in love with him the first time I saw him fix a kid's bicycle without charging him a dime. We got married 6 months later with a simple ceremony and a white dress that my Aunt Helen lent me. Robert took me to live in a small 2-room apartment in the city. That is where Stephen was born 3 years later on a July morning when we almost did not make it to the hospital. He was my only son. After him, I could not have any more. The doctors spoke of complications of things I did not fully understand between the crying and the exhaustion. Robert hugged me that night in the hospital and said with one, "Is enough, my love, we are going to raise him like a king." And boy, did we do that. I worked for 40 years as an elementary school teacher at Lincoln Elementary. Every morning I got up at 5:30, prepared breakfast for Robert, and Stephen ironed the uniforms, checked the homework. At 7, I ran out to catch the bus that dropped me off 3 blocks before the school. Robert worked double shifts at the shop so that we would not lack anything. On Sundays, we went to City Park. Stephen ran among the trees while Robert and I ate ice cream cones, sitting on an iron bench. We were happy, with little, but happy. When Stephen turned 15, my parents died within 6 months of each other. Dad from a heart attack. Mom from sadness, I believe. Although the doctor said it was pneumonia, they left me this house, the same one where I now live alone. A 2-story property in the suburbs with 3 bedrooms, a small garden, and a lemon tree that my father planted when I was a girl. The house is worth approximately $400,000. I know because a year ago a neighbor sold an identical one for $410,000. Robert died 12 years ago. A brain aneurysm that gave him no time to even say goodbye. He went out to buy bread for dinner and never returned. They called me from the hospital at 9 at night. When I arrived, he was already gone. Stephen was 26 years old. I was 55. Suddenly, I found myself a widow with half a broken heart and the responsibility to keep going. But I did not crumble. I could not. I had to be strong for my son who cried every night missing his father. I continued teaching until I was 62. I retired 5 years ago with a pension of $2,000 a month. It is not much, but it is enough for me. I pay my bills, I buy my groceries, I treat myself. I go to the market on Thursdays to the beauty salon once a month so Linda can dye my gray hair. On Sundays, I go to the 8 o'clock service. I am independent. Never listen to me well, never have I been a burden to anyone. This house is my sanctuary. The walls hold the laughter of my childhood, the Christmas dinners with my parents. Stephen's first steps, the nights hugging Robert, watching old movies on the TV. In my nightstand, I keep my most precious treasure, a gold pocket watch that belonged to my grandfather. It is over 100 years old. The hands do not mark the time well anymore, but it shines like the first day. My father gave it to me before dying. Take care of it, Eleanor. It is the only thing of value in this family apart from our word. I have cared for it like gold never better said. When Stephen was a boy, I used to open the watch and show him the little wheels turning. I told him stories of the grandfather he never knew, of the time when that watch marked hours of honest work, of family gatherings, of life lived with dignity. But all that changed. Something happened between the boy we raised and the man he became, and that something had a name: Valerie, my daughter-in-law, the woman who entered our lives like a gentle breeze and ended up being a devastating hurricane. But I will talk about her later. First, you need to understand something fundamental. I am not a helpless little old lady who lets herself be pushed around. I am not one of those who cry in silence while everything is snatched away from them. I am Eleanor Vance, daughter of merchants, wife of a hard-working mechanic, mother of a son to whom I gave everything a retired teacher, with 40 years of experience, dealing with difficult children, demanding parents, and incompetent principals. I have survived poverty, the death of my parents, becoming a widow. I have built a dignified life with my own hands, and if anyone thought I was going to end my days being anyone's ATM, not even my own son's, they were gravely mistaken. Because what Stephen and Valerie did not understand is that a mother's love has limits, and they had just crossed all of them. The question that haunted me that morning of the 25th while I canceled every service was simple. At what moment did my son stop seeing me as his mother and start seeing me only as a source of money? The answer arrived faster than I expected. 3 years ago, Stephen arrived at my house one Sunday in May with a smile I had not seen on him since his father's death. "Mom, I want to introduce you to someone." Behind him appeared a woman thin with long dark hair, pale skin, and honey-colored eyes. She wore beige linen trousers and an impeccable white blouse. She carried a designer handbag that I recognized because a fellow teacher had bought one on layaway for a whole year. "This is Valerie," Stephen said, and the way he pronounced her name told me everything. He was in love. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Vance. Stephen has told me so much about you," she said, extending her hand with a smile that showed perfectly white teeth. Her handshake was soft, too soft, as if she did not want to get dirty. "The pleasure is mine, dear. Come in, come in. I just made some iced tea." We sat in the living room. Valerie looked at everything with those cat eyes. She noticed the paintings on the wall, the wooden cabinet with the antique china, the Persian rug my mother bought downtown 40 years ago. "What a cozy house," she said. But the way she said it sounded strange to me, like when someone says interesting when they really think old. "Thank you, it is the house where I grew up. My parents left it to me." "Ah, how nice to have properties in the family," she replied, and I saw how her eyes sparkled for a second. I should have noticed it then. That spark, that interest that was not for me but for what I had. But I was so happy to see Stephen happy that I ignored my instinct. During that first visit, Valerie talked about her family. She said she came from good stock, that her father had been a textile businessman, that she studied administration at a private college. She spoke of trips to Hawaii, of parties in elegant halls of summers at her uncle's house in the Hamptons. It all sounded impressive, too impressive for someone who now lived in a rented 2-room apartment with my son. "And what do your parents do now?" I asked with genuine curiosity. Valerie lowered her gaze with a dramatic expression. "Oh, Mrs. Vance's life takes many turns. My dad had problems with the business. You know how things are in this country. He lost everything. Now they live in a modest little house across town. I work in a department store to help them." Stephen squeezed her hand tenderly. That is why I admire her so much, Mom. Despite everything, Valerie is strong, like you." He compared me to her. My son compared me to that woman he had just met. I swallowed hard and smiled. "That is good, dear." Work gives dignity. The following months were a whirlwind. Stephen brought Valerie over more and more often. She always arrived dressed up with clothes that looked expensive, but that I suspected she bought at thrift stores. She always brought some little detail: flowers from the market, a sweet roll of chocolate, small gestures that disarmed me. "For you, Mrs. Vance, I know you like coffee, and this is a special blend." How could I not grow fond of her? After a year of dating, Stephen gave me the news. "Mom, I am going to propose to Valerie." "So soon, son." "I am already 35 years old, Mom. I am not here to waste time. She is the one." I lent him $2,000 for the ring and the engagement expenses. "I will pay you back in 6 months, Mom. I promise." I never saw that money back. The wedding was 2 years ago. In an event hall downtown with 200 guests, a live orchestra, and a 3-course dinner. Stephen took out a loan, but I ended up paying a large part. Valerie's dress, $4,000, the invitations, the floral decoration. It is your only wedding, son. I want it to be special. On the day of the ceremony, Valerie looked radiant in her white lace dress. I wore a coral suit that I bought especially for the occasion. I sat in the first row, crying with happiness, seeing my son at the altar. But there was something that hit me like a bucket of cold water. During the newlyweds' waltz, Valerie danced first with her father, then with Stephen, then with her uncles, with her cousins, with friends. I waited for my turn to dance with my son. It never came. When the party was ending and I went to say goodbye, Stephen was exhausted. He gave me a quick hug. "Thanks for everything, Mom. I love you." "Aren't we going to dance, son?" I asked with a timid smile. Valerie appeared out of nowhere, taking him by the arm. "Oh, Mrs. Vance, poor Stephen is totally exhausted. He already danced with everyone. We better go to the hotel now, right, my love?" Stephen nodded, almost asleep. "Sorry, Mom. I'll call you tomorrow." I watched them leave. The last image I had was of Valerie turning toward me with a smile that no longer reached her eyes, a smile of victory. After the wedding, things changed. The Sunday visits became bi-weekly, then monthly, then, "Whenever we can, Mom." Stephen no longer called me alone. Valerie was always on speakerphone. "Mom, how are you? I have you on speaker." Valerie wants to say hi, too. "Hi, Mrs. Vance," she would say with a sweet but distant voice. The conversations lasted 5 minutes before we talked for hours. When I dialed sometimes, Stephen did not answer. Then he would send me a message. "Sorry, I was busy." Everything good. And if I insisted on seeing him, Valerie always had a commitment. "Oh, Mrs. Vance, just that day we have a lunch with my parents." "How about next week?" Next week never came. I realized something terrible. Valerie was building a wall between my son and me, brick by brick, canceled visit by canceled visit, cut call by cut call. And the worst part is that Stephen did not notice. Or worse yet, he did notice and did not care. But what neither of them knew is that I was noticing. Everything. And I was keeping every detail in my memory like someone keeping evidence for a trial that has not yet begun. Because something told me that this marriage was not about love, it was about convenience. And I was the most convenient part of all. The rented apartment, the favors which started small, the escalation of money requests, specific details of amounts Valerie's manipulation. How Eleanor slowly realizes but keeps giving. The moment where she understands they do not see it as a loan, but as an obligation. The first loan came 3 months after the wedding. It was a Tuesday night. I was watching my soap opera when the phone rang. "Mom." Stephen's voice sounded tense. "What happened, son? Are you okay?" Yes, it is just that." "Well, this month got complicated with the apartment rent." Do you think you can help us with $1,200? It is just for this time. I will pay you back on Friday when I get paid. $1,200, the full rent of their apartment in the city. What happened to your salary, Stephen? It is just that we had extra expenses. You know, new house things. But I promise you that on Friday, without fail, I will deposit it. I did not think twice. He was my son. Of course, sweetie, I will transfer it right now. Thanks, Mom. You are the best. I love you. Friday came and went. The money never returned. When I asked him a week later with embarrassment, almost apologizing for asking, he told me, "Oh, Mom, I completely forgot. This pay period was heavy, next one without fail." The next pay period did not bring the money either. And then came the second request. "Mom, could you help me again with the rent? It is just that Valerie had a problem with her card, and we are short. It is another $1,200. But son, you still owe me the first $1,200. There was an uncomfortable silence. Well, so when I pay you, I will pay everything together. Okay, it is just that we are really tight. I transferred again, because that is how mothers are right. Incapable of seeing our children suffer, even if that suffering is a lie. The third month, Valerie was the one who called. "Mrs. Vance, good morning. I am calling you because Stephen is in a meeting and we need to ask you for a little favor." That word, little favor. As if asking for $1,200 was asking to borrow a cup of sugar. "Tell me, dear." It is just that this month the rent went up to $1,250, and with the utilities we are already at $1,500. Could you help us? Stephen says you are always so understanding. Something in her tone bothered me. It was sweet but fake, like the sweetener they use in diet sodas. And the money I lent you the past months. "Oh, Mrs. Vance, we have wanted to pay you, but so many expenses have come up. You know, when one gets married, everything is more expensive. But don't worry, as soon as we have it, we will pay you everything together." I transferred the $1,500, and so the cycle began. Every month there was a new emergency. Every month a new reason. "Mom, the heater broke down." "Mrs. Vance, we need to buy a washing machine. The one we have doesn't work anymore." "Mom, Valerie needs some urgent medical tests." "Mrs. Vance, the car needs urgent service." I transferred, again and again, with the foolish hope that one day they would pay me. I kept a notebook where I wrote down every loan. Date, amount, concept: April $1,200. Rent: May $1,250. Rent and utilities: June $800. Heater: July $1,500. Washing machine: August $650. Medical tests: September $1,800. Car service. And the list kept growing, page after page of my tight handwriting documenting how my money went in a constant drip toward the bottomless pit that was my son's marriage. But the worst came a year ago. Stephen arrived at my house on a Saturday morning, alone, without Valerie. "Mom, I need to talk to you about something important." I got scared. I thought he was sick, that they had serious problems. "What is happening, son?" "I want to buy a car for Valerie, something nice, safe. She works so hard and deserves to have her own car." "What a nice gesture, son. I am glad you think of her. The detail is that I need $8,000 for the down payment. I have seen a 2019 Honda Civic that is perfect. Could you lend them to me? I will pay you in a year. I will sign a promissory note if you want." $8,000. More than 4 months of my full pension. "Stephen, that is a lot of money." "I know, Mom. That is why I am asking you to lend it to me, not to give it to me. I'm going to pay you religiously, $150 every 2 weeks until completing everything." "Yes." I looked at him. I saw my son, the man I had raised, to whom I taught that debts are paid, that a word is worth gold. "And the other loans, Stephen, you still owe me more than $12,000. He shifted uncomfortably in the armchair. "I know, Mom, and I'm going to pay them, all of them. I swear to you, but But this is important. Valerie really needs the car. She takes 2 buses to get to her work. She gets up at 5 in the morning. With the car, her life would be easier. I felt something break inside me, but a mother's love is stronger than reason. I took $8,000 from my savings, the money I had saved for emergencies for my old age, so as not to be a burden to anyone. I gave it to them. We signed a note that he wrote himself. I promised to pay $150 bi-weekly until paying off the $8,000. Signed, Stephen Vance. I kept that paper in my drawer as if it were a winning lottery ticket. 2 weeks later, when I asked him for the first payment, he told me, "Oh, Mom, this pay period I spent too much. Next one I will pay you 2 together." Neither the first nor the second ever arrived. But Valerie did debut a car, a shiny silver Honda Civic that she showed off on all her social networks. I saw her pose next to the car with dark glasses and a magazine smile. The caption said, "Blessed and grateful to life." Not a mention of who paid the down payment. The following months, the requests became more shameless. "Mom, can you pay the internet for us? It is $89. Mrs. Vance, we need help with groceries. $300. Mom, we forgot to pay the electricity. Can you deposit $120? They no longer asked. They assumed, and I, like an idiot, kept giving. Until one day, 6 months ago, I dared to say no. Stephen called me asking for $2,500 for a medical emergency for Valerie. "Son, this time I really cannot. I have that money saved for my heart medication." The silence that followed was glacial. "Seriously, Mom, seriously. Are you going to leave me alone when I need you most?" "It is not that, Stephen. It is just that I have already lent you so much and—" "Lent?" His voice became hard. "Mom, it is not lent. It is helping your son. Or did you already forget that I am your family?" "Of course I don't forget, but—" He hung up. He blocked me for 3 days. When he finally answered, he was curt. "We already got the money elsewhere. Don't worry." 2 weeks later, I found out through his cousin Rick that the medical emergency had been a trip to Cabo that Valerie wanted to take. There was no emergency, only a whim. And I, foolish me, was about to sacrifice my health to finance their vacation. It was then that I understood something I should have comprehended from the beginning. For them, I was not the mother. I was not the grandmother their children would one day meet. I was the wallet, the ATM, the easy solution to all their economic problems. And the most painful thing of all was realizing that my own son had stopped seeing me as his mom. My son was always noble since he was a boy. I remember when he was 8 years old and found a stray dog outside the school. He arrived home crying because the other children were throwing stones at the animal. Robert and I ended up adopting that dog. His name was Rusty, and he lived with us for 11 years. That was Stephen the boy with the huge heart who could not stand to see anyone suffer. Where did that boy stay? The change was gradual, so slow that at first I did not notice. Like when a plant withers, it does not die from one day to the next. It shuts down leaf by leaf until one day you look, and only dry stems remain. It all started with the calls. Before Valerie, Stephen called me every night. It did not matter how tired he was from work, he dialed me at 8. "What did you have for dinner?" "Mom." "How did it go today?" "Did you see that episode of the show?" Simple daily conversations, those that weave the love between mother and son. After the wedding, the calls became sporadic, then practically non-existent. When I dialed, he answered in a hurry. "Yeah, Mom. Tell me quick, I'm heading out." "I'm busy. Is it urgent? I can't. Right now, I'll call you later." That later never came. I began to notice that he only called me when he needed something money, a favor for me to hold documents, never just to hear about me. One night, I dialed 5 times. He did not answer any. I sent a text. "Son, are you okay? You worry me." He replied 3 hours later. "Yeah, Ma, I was watching a movie with Val." 3 hours watching a movie while his mother was dying of worry, thinking something had happened to him. The visits also changed. Before he came every Sunday to eat, he arrived at 2 on the dot, helped me set the table, we washed the dishes together while we chatted. He left around 6 after having a coffee. After getting married, the visits became once a month, then every 2 months. And when he came, it was no longer the same. He arrived with Valerie glued to him like a shadow. She did not help me in the kitchen. She sat in the living room checking her cell phone while I served the food. "Valerie, dear, can you help me dry the dishes?" "Oh, Mrs. Vance, it is just that my head hurts a lot. Can Stephen help you?" And my son, the same one who as a child helped me dry the dishes every day, now said, "Let me finish this message, Mom." He never finished the message. What hurt the most was realizing that Stephen no longer looked me in the eyes. When we chatted, he looked at his cell phone. When I asked him something, he answered with monosyllables. "How is work going, son?" "Good." "Are you thinking about having babies soon?" "I don't know." "How are Valerie's parents?" "There." Dead conversations, like talking to a stranger who has no interest in knowing you. But the hardest blow came 8 months ago, my 67th birthday. We'd always celebrated my birthdays together since Stephen was a baby. Robert prepared breakfast for me. Stephen brought me flowers. In the afternoon, we ate cake. When Robert died, Stephen kept the tradition. He took me to breakfast at a nice restaurant. He gave me perfume or a blouse. We spent the day together. This year I waited for his call from 6 in the morning. It did not come. At 9, I sent a message. "Good morning, son." Seen. No answer. At 12, I prepared my own lunch. Some simple scrambled eggs. I poured myself a glass of iced tea and sang "Happy Birthday" alone in my kitchen. I cried while I ate. At 11 at night, when I had already put on my pajamas, the message arrived. "Happy birthday, Ma. Sorry the day flew by. I'll see you later to give you your gift." The gift never arrived. 2 weeks later, I confronted him. I went to his apartment without warning. He opened the door in sweatpants, disheveled. "Mom, what are you doing here? Can I come in or not even that?" I entered. The apartment was a mess. Clothes thrown around, dirty dishes in the sink, the smell of stale food. Valerie came out of the bedroom in a robe, yawning. "Oh, Mrs. Vance, what a surprise." "We didn't know you were coming." "I didn't know I had to make an appointment to see my son." Stephen tensed up. "Mom, did something happen?" Did something happen? My voice broke. "Do you know what happened, Stephen?" That I turned 67 2 weeks ago, and my only son forgot completely. He went pale. "Mom, Sorry the day flew by." I interrupted him, repeating his words with bitterness. "Is that how the memory of your mother flies by?" Valerie intervened with a sugary voice. "Oh, Mrs. Vance, seriously, it was unintentional. It is just that we have been very stressed with work and—" "I am not talking to you." I cut her off drier than I intended. The atmosphere froze. Stephen looked at her, then at me. And in that moment, I saw something that destroyed my soul. He chose to look at her with concern, at me with annoyance. "Mom, don't talk to Valerie like that. She hasn't done anything to you." "Ah, no. Hasn't the woman who distanced you from me done anything to me? The one who makes you not call me anymore, not visit me, forget me on my birthday?" "No one distanced me from you, Mom. I simply grew up. I have my own life now." Those words were like knives. Does growing up mean forgetting where you come from? Does it mean ignoring the one who gave you life? Valerie let out a theatrical sigh. "Stephen, my love, I think your mom needs to rest. You know how old people get sometimes." "How old people get?" She treated me as if I were senile, as if my pain were a crazy old woman's tantrum, and the worst of all was that Stephen nodded. "Yes, Mom, I think you are tired. Better go home to rest, and tomorrow we will talk calmly." He was kicking me out. My own son was throwing me out of his house. "It is fine," I said, with my voice trembling. "I am leaving, but I want you to know something, Stephen. The day you really need me, when you realize what you are losing, it is going to be too late. I left there with my head high, but with my heart in pieces. In the taxi back, I could not contain the tears. The driver saw me through the rear-view mirror. "Are you okay, ma'am?" "Yes," I lied. "It is just that I miss my son a lot." "Is he far away?" "No," I whispered. "He is close, but it feels as if he were on another planet." That night, lying in my bed, looking at the ceiling in the dark, I understood something terrifying. I had lost my son, not to death, not to distance. I had lost him to a woman who knew how to play her cards better than me. And the worst of all was that he did not even realize it. They wanted me to sell my parents' house to give them the down payment for their new house. The audacity has no limits. I must elaborate. 6 months ago, announcement of wanting to buy a house. Plan house of 4, $500,000 in an exclusive area. Valerie's proposal to sell my house. My firm refusal. The manipulation that followed constant hints. The day they brought a real estate agent without warning. 6 months ago, on a Saturday in June, Stephen and Valerie arrived at my house without warning. That was already strange. They hadn't come for months without me insisting. They brought a bottle of sparkling wine and a tray of cookies from the supermarket. "Mom, we have to tell you something exciting," Stephen said with a smile I hadn't seen on his face since before the wedding. We sat in the living room. Valerie settled on the sofa, crossing her legs with that air of superiority I already knew well. "What is it?" I asked, feeling that something did not fit. "We are house hunting," Stephen blurted out. "A house of our own. We are tired of throwing money away on rent." I was pleased. Really. Seeing my son wanting to progress always filled me with pride. "That is wonderful, son. I am very glad. We have seen several options," he continued. "There is one in the gated community that we love. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, garden garage for 2 cars. Sounds beautiful. And how much does it cost?" Valerie leaned forward with that smile that already gave me goosebumps. $450,000, Mrs. Vance. It is a very exclusive residential area, one of those properties that only appreciates. $450,000. That is a lot of money, I said, trying to sound neutral. "That is why we came to talk to you." Stephen approached and took my hands. "We need $100,000 for the down payment. We have been saving, but we only have $30,000. We are missing $70,000. I felt my stomach turn. "Are you asking me for $70,000? "No, Mom, no," he rushed to say. "It is not that. Let me explain the plan." Valerie took out her cell phone and showed me photos of my own house. "Look, Mrs. Vance, we have been thinking. This house is huge for you alone. It is 2 stories. 3 bedrooms. You are here all alone going up and down stairs at your age. At my age. As if 67 years were 90. And we have seen that houses like this in the suburbs sell for $350,000 up to $400,000. Valerie continued with a silky voice. "Imagine all that money stored in walls that you don't even use." I began to understand where this was going. "What exactly are you suggesting?" Stephen squeezed my hands. "That you sell the house, Mom. With that money, we can buy a bigger house where we all live together. One with a bedroom on the ground floor for you so you don't have to climb stairs. Imagine we would be close taking care of each other." "It would be perfect, Mrs. Vance," Valerie added. "We would be there to help you with anything. You wouldn't be alone anymore. And the money left over, we can invest for your future." I remained mute. They wanted me to sell my parents' house, the house where I was born, where I grew up, where I married Robert, where I raised Stephen, the house that held every memory of my life. And they posed it as if they were doing me a favor. "No," I said with a firm voice. Stephen blinked. "No, I am not going to sell this house." Valerie let out a nervous little laugh. "Mrs. Vance, I think you don't understand the proposal well. We would all be together. It would be a smart investment." "I understand perfectly." I looked her straight in the eyes. And the answer is no. This house has the memory of my parents, of my husband, of my whole life. It is not for sale. The atmosphere changed. The fake warmth evaporated. Mom, but think about it well, Stephen insisted. Why do you want so much space when you are older? It is going to be difficult to maintain all this. I am 67, not 90. I can still take care of myself. But it is just that you don't think about Stephen's future, Valerie blurted out, no longer hiding her annoyance. He is your only son. Don't you want him to progress? Don't you want to see him in a dignified house? I want to see him in the house he can pay for with his work, I replied. Not with my inheritance while I'm alive. Stephen got up frustrated. It is not inheritance in life, Mom. It would be a family investment. Everyone would win. No, Stephen, you would win. I would lose my home. Valerie stood up, taking her handbag with brusque movements. How selfish, really, living alone in this huge house while your son rents a tiny apartment. No one forces you to rent. I said, feeling the rage grow. And no one forced you to look for a $450,000 house when you don't even have the down payment. Stephen, let's go, Valerie ordered. Your mom clearly doesn't want to support you in anything. My son looked at me with a mixture of disappointment and anger that I will never forget. It is fine, Mom. I thought I could count on you, but I see that your house matters more to you than I do. They left, slamming the door. I remained trembling in the living room, hugging myself. From that day, the pressure campaign began. Every time they came, they made comments. Oh, Mrs. Vance, still haven't fixed that leak in the bathroom. This house needs a lot of repairs already. It would be better to sell it before it devalues. Mom, don't you get tired of cleaning 3 bedrooms you don't use? Mrs. Vance, a lady at work, sold her house and went to live with her son. She says it is the best thing she has done. She has no more worries. Pressure. Constant. Relentless. The worst came 3 months ago. I arrived from the market on a Wednesday afternoon and found a car parked in front of my house. Valerie was in my garden with a man in a suit about 50 years old. What is going on here? I asked, carrying my grocery bags. Oh, Mrs. Vance, good thing you arrived, Valerie said with absolute shamelessness. He is Mr. Reynolds, a real estate agent. I asked him to come evaluate the property. Without my permission, the man approached with a professional smile. Ma'am, with all due respect, this property can be worth up to $400,000 in the current market. I have interested buyers in the area. My house is not for sale, I said with an icy voice. Mom, we just wanted you to know how much it is worth, so that you make an informed decision. Stephen appeared coming out of his car. You are in this too. We just want to help you see the options. I let the grocery bags fall to the floor. The tomatoes rolled on the concrete. Get out, I said with a low but firm voice. Get out of my property, the 3 of you. Ma'am, I only do my job, said the agent. Then go do it somewhere else. This house is mine, and as long as I breathe, it will continue to be mine. Valerie scoffed. Fine, keep your old house. Anyway, when you are no longer here, it will be Stephen's regardless. Those words stuck in me like needles. When I am no longer here, they were waiting for me to die to keep everything. In that moment, I knew something with absolute certainty. For them, I was worth more dead than alive. Because alive, I was an obstacle between them and my property. Dead, I would be a convenient inheritance. And the most painful thing was that my own son agreed with that plan. If I thought the house thing was the worst they could do to me, I was completely wrong. What came next was a series of slights so calculated, so precise that I understood they were not coincidences. They were messages. The first arrived in September, 4 months ago. Stephen called me a Tuesday night. Mom, this Saturday is our first wedding anniversary. How nice, son. Are you going to celebrate? Yes, we are going to have an intimate dinner, just the 2 of us. You know, something romantic. How beautiful. Enjoy it. Hey, Mom, could you help me with $2,500? It is just that we want to go to a special restaurant and then spend the weekend in Lake Tahoe. $2,500 for an intimate dinner. "Stephen, that is a lot of money." "I know, but it is our first anniversary, Mom. It is important. I will pay you next month, I promise." Something was eating me up inside. But it was his anniversary, a special moment. I transferred the money. On Saturday, I spent the day alone thinking of them, wishing them happiness. At 8 at night, I sent them a message. "Happy anniversary, children. May God bless you always." Stephen replied with a heart emoji. Nothing else. Sunday night, my neighbor Angela knocked on my door. "Eleanor, you have to see this." She had her cell phone in her hand with a look of pity. She showed me Valerie's Facebook. She had uploaded like 30 photos of her intimate dinner. Intimate, with 20 people. Her parents were there, her brothers, her cousins, her friends, everyone toasting in a private room of a luxurious restaurant, tables decorated with gold balloons, a 3-tier cake, a live band playing, a complete party, and I did not even know it existed. My money had paid for that celebration where I was not welcome. I trembled with rage, with humiliation. "Are you okay?" Angela asked. "Yes." I lied. "Thanks for telling me." That night I cried until I fell asleep. But that was just the beginning. 2 weeks later, Valerie turned 28. I found out through social media. She organized a party in an event hall. Theme casino night. Dress code elegant. I did not receive an invitation. I called Stephen on the day of the birthday. "Son, are you going to celebrate Valerie today?" "Ah, yes. She has a gathering with her friends. You know a girl's thing." "Can I bring her a cake or something?" There was an uncomfortable silence. "No, Mom, don't worry. It is something informal. Better you congratulate her another day." I hung up feeling small, unnecessary. That night I saw the photos. 50 people. DJ open bar. LED light decoration. Photo booth with props. And in a photo, between laughter and drinks, I managed to see Stephen hugging Valerie's parents. Valerie's dedication said, "Surrounded by my favorite people. Thanks for making this day unforgettable." I was not her favorite people. I was nothing. In October came the cruelest blow. Valerie's family organized a Sunday lunch, a family reunion of the Millers, according to what I saw on the networks. They took Stephen as a special guest. The photos showed long tables in the garden of a nice house, children running, grandparents toasting, and there in the middle of everyone my son, smiling, happy, surrounded by a family that was not his. The description of one of the photos said, "My favorite son-in-law, welcome to the Miller family." Favorite son-in-law, as if he had no mother, as if he had been born from nothing and Valerie had rescued him. They never mentioned that Stephen had his own family, that he had a mother who had raised him alone after becoming a widow. Never. That night I dialed Stephen. He answered reluctantly. "What is it, Mom? I am busy. I saw that you went to Valerie's family lunch." "Yeah, so why do they never invite me to those things?" I heard him sigh with annoyance. "Because they are their gatherings, Mom, not ours. Not everything revolves around you." I remained mute. I have to hang up. Talk later. I never talk later. Then came Mother's Day. I thought that day would be different, that Stephen would remember who gave birth to him, who stayed up when he had a fever, who worked double shifts so he would never lack anything. I waited for his call from 6 in the morning. It did not come. At 10 I dialed. He did not answer. I sent him a message. "Happy day, son. Seen." I went to church alone. I walked through the park alone. I ate alone. At 11 at night, when I had already given up, the message arrived. "Happy day, Mom. Sorry for not calling earlier. The day got complicated. See you tomorrow." Tomorrow never came. But on Instagram, Valerie had uploaded a photo of a spectacular breakfast that Stephen prepared for the mother of his future children. My son had cooked for her. He had bought her flowers. He had written her a long and emotional letter that she shared in full, and for me a text message at 11 at night. The straw that broke the camel's back arrived in November. He needed $4,500 to, according to him, repair the car. For the first time in my life, No. Son, this time I really cannot. I need that money for my medical studies and my heart medication. Seriously, Mom, seriously, are you going to deny me this? It is not denying you, it is just that I have important expenses too. He hung up. 5 minutes later, Valerie called me shouting, "Mrs. Vance, what is wrong with you? Stephen is crying because of you." Crying? Why? Because you are selfish after everything he has done for you. What has he done for me, Valerie? Tell me, enlighten me. Visit you, call you, tolerate you. Does that seem little? That word, tolerate, as if my existence were a burden, a punishment. I have never asked him to tolerate me, I said with my voice broken. I just wanted to be his mother. Well, being a mother is not just receiving, ma'am, it is giving, and you only think about yourself. She hung up. They blocked me for 2 whole weeks. They only unblocked me when they needed me to pay for the internet because it was overdue, $89. And like the fool that I was, I paid. But it was then that I found out the truth. My cousin Ruth called me worried. "Eleanor, I saw Stephen and Valerie at the airport. Did they go on a trip?" "Trip? No, the car was broken down." "Which car?" "I saw them get on a flight to Cabo. They had suitcases and everything. The car never broke down. The $4,500 they asked me for were for a vacation. And when I told them no, they simply got the money from somewhere else and went anyway." I remained sitting in my living room looking at the walls that held so many memories, and I understood something brutal. I was no longer Stephen's mother. I was the teller, the one who gave when asked, the one who shut up when humiliated, the one who existed only when they needed her. And that had to end. November arrived with a cold that chilled to the bone, or maybe it was my heart that was frozen. I no longer knew the difference. November 3rd, Tuesday morning. I was drinking my coffee when the phone rang. It was Stephen. "Mom, good morning." "Good." "How did you wake up?" His tone was sweet, suspiciously sweet. "Good, son, and you look. I need to ask you a favor. It is important. Here came the real reason for the call. Tell me. I need you to lend me $4,500. Valerie's car broke down, and according to the mechanic, it needs a transmission change. It is urgent, Mom. Without a car, she cannot go to work. $4,500. I breathed deep. I looked out my kitchen window. My father's lemon tree looked sad with few leaves, just like me. "Stephen, this time I cannot." Silence. "What do you mean you cannot?" "I cannot. I have to go to the cardiologist next week. The studies cost $2,500, and I need to refill my medications. I have like $3,000 free, and I cannot compromise them." "And what am I going to do?" His voice became hard. "How is Valerie going to get to work?" "On the bus, like she did before you bought her the car. Or in an Uber. It is not the end of the world. I can't believe it. I really can't believe it. You are my mom, and you are leaving me alone." "I am not leaving you alone, Stephen. I am telling you that this time I cannot. It is different. It is the same. Always thinking of yourself first. I felt something break inside me. First of myself. First of myself." My voice rose in volume. "I have given you more than $75,000 in 2 years, Stephen. $75,000. And I think first of myself. That is not true. I have every receipt, every transfer proof. If you want, let's go and count them together. That was helping your son. It is your obligation." That word hit me like a slap. Obligation. My obligation was to raise you, educate you, give you love. And I did it. Now you are an adult of 38 years. I have no obligation to support you or your wife. He hung up. 5 minutes later, Valerie called, and this time there was no sweetness or pretense. "Mrs. Vance, how dare you deny help to your son? I am not denying him help. I am telling him that I do not have the money. Lie. You have a house, you have a pension, you have savings. What happens is that you are a piece of shit, selfish person. Never in my 67 years had anyone spoken to me like that. Watch your mouth, Valerie. No, I am not going to watch it. Stephen is crying because of you. His own son is suffering because you prefer to hoard your money like a miser. If you need the money so much, get it working like normal people. We do work, not like you who only lives off government handouts. My pension. She called my pension a handout, the 40 years I worked. This conversation is over, I said with an icy voice. No, this conversation ends when I say so. You are a bitter old woman who doesn't want to see her son happy. Stephen deserves a better mother. I hung up the phone with my hands trembling. They blocked me from everything: WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, calls. For 3 weeks, I knew nothing of them. And you know what was the worst of those 3 weeks of silence? That I did not miss them. I felt peace. There were no messages asking for money. There were no calls with invented emergencies. There was no pressure to sell my house, just silence. And in that silence, I began to think clearly. When was the last time Stephen called me just to know how I was? I did not remember. When was the last time he visited me without asking me for anything neither? When was the last time he told me, "I love you, Mom," without it being after I gave him money? Never. One afternoon, cleaning the bookshelf, I found a box with old photos. There was Stephen at 5 years old riding on Robert's shoulders. At 10 at his first communion. At 15 at the party we organized for him by selling the old refrigerator. At 20, the day he graduated from college with tears in his eyes, thanking me for having always supported him. I looked at those photos and I cried. Where did that grateful boy stay? Where did that young man who said I was his hero stay? Valerie took him. She transformed him into someone I do not recognize. Or maybe that boy never really existed. Maybe he was always capable of this and I did not want to see it. On November 28th, they unblocked me. Stephen sent a message. "Mom, we need to talk. Can you deposit $89 for us? The internet expired and we have to pay it today or they cut us off. No apologies, no forgiveness for how I spoke to you. Just give me money." I read the message 5 times, and something inside me clicked. I got up. I went to my desk. I took out all the papers, all the bills, all the vouchers. I put them on the dining room table and started adding up. Rent, $9,600 in 8 months. Valerie's car, $8,000. Furniture, $4,500. Medical emergencies, $3,500. Trips, dinners, utilities, gym subscriptions, $18,000. Various loans, $31,400. Total $75,000. $750,000 in less than 2 years. And I couldn't even have my son on Christmas. Because my wife's parents come first. I took my phone. I opened the calculator. I added up everything I paid monthly for them without them knowing. Internet, $89. Netflix, Amazon, Spotify, $65. Valerie's car insurance, $120. Family cell phone plan, $90. Gym for both, $160. Monthly total, $524. Besides the loans that never returned. And all that for what? So they treat me like a hindrance. So they block me when I don't give them what they want, so they call me selfish. I looked at Stephen's message again. "Can you deposit $89 for us?" And it was then that I made the most important decision of my life. I was not going to deposit one more dime. In fact, I was going to do something better. I was going to take away everything I paid for. And when their world of comforts collapsed then they would know who Eleanor Vance really was. December had always been my favorite month. The smell of eggnog simmering on the stove, the Christmas lights on the street trees, the carols sounding on every corner, the illusion of having my family close, even if my family was now only Stephen. This year, I decorated my house on December 1st. I took out the artificial tree that Robert bought 15 years ago. I placed every ornament with care. The golden star on the tip, the red spheres Stephen painted when he was 8, the nativity scene I inherited from my grandmother with the delicate porcelain figurines. I put lights in the window. I placed my mistletoe wreath on the door. I took out my collection of cinnamon-scented candles. Everything was perfect. On December 10th, I called Stephen. "Son, have you thought about what you are going to do for Christmas?" "Not yet, Mom. I'll confirm later." "It is just that I need to know to go buying things." "You know the turkey has to be ordered ahead of time." Yes, I'll let you know." A week passed. He confirmed nothing. I called again on the 18th. "Stephen, it is almost Christmas. I need you to tell me if you are coming." "Oh, Mom, don't pressure me. Valerie and I are still seeing." "Seeing what it is. Christmas. Either you come or you don't come." "I'll confirm before the 24th. "Okay." Something in his tone told me he would not come, but I refused to believe it. On the 20th, I went to the market. I spent $450 on food. I bought the biggest turkey potatoes, apples for the salad, raisins, almonds, walnuts, pine nuts, the ingredients for the eggnog, everything Stephen loved. On the 21st, I made the pies, 30 pecan pies. I spent the whole day in the kitchen with my hands aching from kneading so much dough, but I did it happily because my son would come. He would have to come. On the 22nd, I decorated the table. I took out the tablecloth I embroidered when I got married. The crystal glasses, the fine china plates that we only used on special occasions. Everything shone. Everything smelled delicious. On the 23rd at night, I could barely sleep from the excitement. Tomorrow, I would be with my son. They would have dinner together. They would talk. They would remember the Christmases when Robert lived, when we were a real family. December 24th. I got up at 6 in the morning. I showered. I put on a wine-colored dress that I bought especially for the occasion. I put on makeup. I did my hair. At 9, I put the turkey in the oven. At 10, I prepared the eggnog. At 11, I made the potato salad. At 1, I baked the potatoes. Everything was ready by 7 at night, which was when I thought they would arrive. At 3 in the afternoon, the phone rang. My heart skipped a beat. It was Stephen. "Hello," I answered with a smile. "Mom, I have to tell you something." My smile froze. His voice sounded strange, distant. "What is happening, son? What time are you arriving?" "Everything is almost ready." There was a silence that froze my blood. "We are not going to go, Mom." The world stopped. "What?" "Valerie and I decided that this year we are going to go with her parents. They are also alone and, well, they are my wife's parents. We have to be with them." I felt as if they had emptied a bucket of ice water on me. "Stephen, but I am also alone. I prepared everything. I bought the turkey you like. I made your favorite pies." "Oh, Mom, don't start with the drama." "Next year we will see. Besides, we already agreed with Valerie's parents. I can't look bad. And with me, you can look bad. I am your mother. Mom, understand. Valerie's parents come first. She is my wife. They come first." Those words stabbed into my chest like daggers. "They come first." I repeated, feeling the tears burn my eyes. Yes, that is how things are. When you get married, your partner and their family are priority. And what am I? You are my mom. You are always going to be my mom. But you can no longer expect me to be there for you every time you want. My voice broke. Every time I want. "Stephen, it is Christmas. Once a year, only once. And next year we go. Or you come with us to the in-laws' house. What do you think? Go me to celebrate with the family that had stolen my son. Go to be the uncomfortable guest, the mother-in-law who is extra. No thanks." "Well, then we see each other after Christmas. Have a nice time, Mom. Don't get sad. It is just a day. Just a day." For him, it was just a day. For me, it was everything. "It is fine, Stephen. Have a nice time." My voice came out colder than I intended, but I no longer had the strength to pretend. "You aren't mad." "No." Enjoy your dinner. Say hi to Valerie. Okay, Mom. I love you. I hung up before I could hear him say those empty words one more time. I remained standing in the middle of the kitchen, the golden turkey in the oven, the steaming pies, the table set for 3 people, the unlit candles, the Christmas tree with the lights blinking in silence, all that love converted into food that no one would eat. I did not cry, not yet. I sat at the table, alone. I served a plate, a slice of pie, a piece of turkey salad. I poured myself a glass of cider. I put a carol on the radio, and I ate, slow, chewing every bite, savoring the irony of dining alone after having cooked for 2. At 10 at night, I washed the dishes. I put all the food away in containers. I knew most of it would end up in the trash. I sat in my green armchair. I turned off all the lights except the trees, and in that darkness surrounded only by the blinking of Christmas lights, I cried. I cried for the son I lost, for the Christmases that would never return, for the family that no longer existed. I cried until I had no more tears left, and then, at some moment in the early morning between midnight and dawn, something changed inside me. The crying ended. The self-pity ended. Being the convenient mother ended. I got up. I went to my bedroom. I took out my purse. I took out all the papers, account statements, vouchers, bills. I put them on my bed and started making mental calls. Tomorrow I would call the landlord of the apartment they rent. Tomorrow I would cancel all subscriptions. Tomorrow I would eliminate them from the family plan. Tomorrow I would cancel the car insurance. Tomorrow I would cut every thread that tied me to their comfort. Because if I was not a priority in their life, they would not be a priority in my wallet either. He had given me Christmas alone. Perfect. Well, let them enjoy their last December living at the expense of my money, because starting December 25th, Eleanor Vance would close the bank forever. December 25th, 5 in the morning. I woke up without an alarm. The body knew. Today a new life began. I hadn't slept well, but it didn't matter either. The mental clarity I had in that moment was worth more than any hour of sleep. I got up, I made coffee. I sat at the kitchen table with my notebook and a pen, and I started writing. Action plan list of everything I paid for them. Rent of the apartment, $1,200 monthly, since 8 months ago. Netflix, Spotify, Amazon Prime. $65 monthly. Valerie's car insurance, $120 monthly. Family cell phone plan, $90 monthly. Gym for both, $160 monthly. Apartment internet, $89 monthly. Monthly total, $1,724. In a year, $20,688. More than $20,000 annually on things they didn't even know I paid. I picked up my phone. It was 6 in the morning. Too early to make calls. But not to plan. I opened my online banking. I checked every automatic charge, every subscription, every service. Everything was there, documented, all the times I had put my card to help them. At 8 in the morning, I made the first call. Lawyer Davis, I am Eleanor Vance. I need to see you today. My lawyer sounded surprised. Today is December 25th, Mrs. Vance. I know, and I will pay you triple. I need to modify my will. It is urgent. There was a pause. Understood. At 3 in the afternoon in my office. I will be there. I hung up and continued with my list. 9 in the morning, I called Mr. Gilbert, the owner of the apartment where they lived. Mr. Gilbert, good morning. I am Eleanor Vance. Mrs. Vance, how are you? Merry Christmas. Same to you, Mr. Gilbert. Look, I am calling to notify you that starting January, I am no longer going to pay my son's rent. Silence. Are you sure? Until now, you have been very punctual. Completely sure. They will have to pay it directly. I just wanted to notify you so you are aware. I understand. Thank you very much for notifying. I hope there are no problems. Me too. Have a nice day. Next call. The Internet Company. Good morning. I want to cancel the internet service contracted in the name of Eleanor Vance for the address. 847 Oak Street Apartment, 304. When do you wish the cancellation to be effective today? Ma'am, it is a holiday. The service will be cut on the 28th. Perfect. Next. The cell phone company. I want to remove 2 lines from the family plan. The numbers I gave them to him. Done. The lines will be deactivated in 24 hours. Thanks. Next. Netflix. I want to change the password of my account and delete all profiles except mine. Done. Next. Spotify. Amazon Prime. HBO. All canceled. Next. The gym. I want to cancel the memberships of Stephen Vance and Valerie Miller. Do you have the member number? Yes. I read them. Canceled starting January. The car insurance was more complicated. I had to send emails signed digital documents. But by 11 in the morning, it was already done. When I finished all the calls, I remained seated, looking at my notebook. List complete, crossed out. I felt something strange in my chest. It was not joy, nor sadness. It was peace. At 3 in the afternoon, I arrived at Mr. Davis's office, an old building downtown with worn marble stairs. Mrs. Vance received me with his usual bow tie. What do you need to modify everything I said with a firm voice? I want the house and all my savings to go to a foundation for orphan children when I die. Stephen will receive nothing. Lawyer Davis looked at me over his glasses. Are you sure it is a very drastic decision? Completely sure. Can you do it today? I can draft the document right now, but I recommend you think about it a few more days. I don't need to think about it. It is already decided. We took 2 hours. When I signed the new will, I felt something close inside me. I returned to my house when it was starting to get dark. The Christmas street lights blinked. In the neighbors' houses, laughter music family gathered could be heard. I entered my empty house to the tree no one came to see, to the food no one ate. But it didn't hurt anymore. I poured myself a glass of wine. I sat in my armchair, and I waited. I knew sooner or later they would knock on my door. Because when the internet stopped working, when the cell phones were cut off, when the gym denied them entry, when the landlord charged them the rent, then they would come. Desperate, confused, furious, and I would be ready. With my coffee, my dignity, and my prepared answer. I was not going to scream. I was not going to cry. I was not going to explain myself. I was just going to look them in the eyes and let them understand for themselves what they had just lost. Because sometimes the best revenge is not noise. It is silence. December 26th, 6:30 in the morning. The banging on my door woke me up. They were not normal knocks. They were desperate knocks. Insistent. I put on my robe. I walked slowly towards the entrance. I looked through the peephole. It was Stephen, disheveled, in sweatpants and t-shirt, barefoot, with swollen eyes. I breathed deep. I prepared myself, and I opened the door. "Mom," he practically shouted, "what did you do? Good morning, son. Do you want to come in? I don't have signal on the cell phone. Valerie neither. The internet doesn't work. What happened?" I looked at him in silence, calm, serene. "Do you want a coffee?" "I don't want coffee. I want to know what happened." "Come in. It is cold." He entered like a hurricane. He paced my living room like a caged animal. "Did you call the internet company, the cell phone? What did you tell them?" I sat in my armchair. I crossed my hands on my lap. I didn't tell them anything that wasn't true, that I was no longer going to pay more for services that are not mine. He froze. "What? You heard right. I canceled the internet. I removed you from the family cell phone plan. I also canceled Netflix, Spotify, all those things." "It's your life, Stephen. You weren't paying for my life. It was just some things." I took out my notebook, the one that had all the sums. $1,724 monthly that I spent on some of your things, plus the loans you never paid back. In total, more than $75,000 in 2 years. He went pale. "Mom, I didn't know you." "Of course you didn't know, because you never asked. You just received." Outside, I heard a car braking abruptly, a door slamming. Valerie entered like a whirlwind without even knocking. "Eleanor!" she shouted. "What the hell did you do?" "Good morning, Valerie." What rudeness to enter without knocking. "I don't give a damn about manners right now. I don't have internet. My cell phone doesn't work. And I just spoke with the gym guy and he says you canceled our memberships." "That is correct." "Are you crazy? You can't do that." I got up. I looked her straight in the eyes. "I can." And I did. "Stephen, say something." She pushed him. My son seemed lost. He looked at the floor. His hands were trembling. "Mom, this is abuse. You can't leave us like this out of nowhere." "Abuse." I let out a bitter laugh. "Leave you like this. You left me alone on Christmas Stephen. After I spent $450 on food no one came to eat." "It was just a dinner," Valerie shouted. "My God, how dramatic it was, my Christmas, the only one I have, and you chose another family." "Because they are my parents," Valerie shouted. "I have the right to spend Christmas with them." "Of course you have the right. Just like I have the right not to continue financing your life." Stephen let himself fall on the sofa with his hands on his head. "And what are we going to do now? How are we going to pay everything?" "I don't know, son, but that is no longer my problem." Valerie approached dangerously. Her face was red with fury. "You are a selfish and bitter old woman. A witch. Could be. But I am a witch who is no longer going to give you even one more dime." "You owe us that money," she shouted. "Everything you lent us." "Lend," I laughed. "Valerie alone is something that is returned. You never returned anything to me. That is called a gift, or rather, robbery." "Stephen, are you going to let your mother talk to me like that?" My son raised his face. He had teary eyes. "Mom, please don't do this. We are your family." "Family?" I felt my voice breaking, but I remained firm. "Family is forgetting my birthday. Family is leaving me alone on Christmas. Family is calling me only when they need money." I do love you, Mom." "No, Stephen. You want my money. You stopped loving me a long time ago." "That is not true." "Then tell me, when was the last time you called me just to know how I was, without asking me for anything? Just to talk?" Silence. "You don't remember, right? Because it never happened." Valerie started walking in circles, hysterical. "This is not going to stay like this. We are going to sue you. You must support us." "No one must support you. You are adults. Get a job. Pay for your things." "I have a job." "Well, then use it to pay your expenses." "Not mine." Stephen got up trembling. "And the rent Mom, Mr. Gilbert called me just now saying you were no longer going to pay." "Exactly. Starting January, you pay him. $2,000 monthly, coming from your account." "We can't afford that." "Then get a cheaper apartment, or move in with Valerie's parents. Anyway, they come first, right?" Valerie paled. "My parents don't have space." "What a pity. You will have to manage on your own then." "Mom." Stephen approached, tears rolling. "Please forgive me. I behaved badly, I know. But don't do this to us. I beg you." For a moment, just for a moment, I felt my heart softening. But then I remembered. Christmas alone. My forgotten birthday. The humiliations. The contempt. "Stephen, I love you. I will always love you. But love does not pay bills. You have to learn to live without my money." "And your will," Valerie blurted out suddenly. I stared at her. "My will, yes. When you are no longer here, the house is Stephen's right." I smiled. For the first time in days, I smiled for real. "No, Valerie, the house my savings, everything goes to a foundation for orphan children. Stephen will receive nothing." Valerie's scream was heard down to the street, and while she screamed and Stephen cried, I remained standing firm as an oak, knowing I had just recovered something I had lost a long time ago, my dignity. I threw them out of my house that day, Valerie shouting empty threats, Stephen crying like a lost child. I closed the door and leaned against it, listening to how the car started with fury. And then, in the silence that remained, I breathed. The following weeks were of absolute peace. There were no calls asking for money. There were no urgent messages. There were no invented emergencies. Just silence. But through the gossip network that always exists in families, I found out everything. My cousin Ruth was my informant unintentionally. Eleanor, I saw your son. They moved to an apartment on the east side, much smaller than where they were. Ah, yes. Yes, and it seems Valerie got a job at a coffee shop. I saw her in uniform. I smiled to myself. 2 weeks later, my neighbor Linda told me more. Eleanor, I don't want to meddle, but I heard your daughter-in-law shouting at Stephen in the street. Something about everything being his fault for not knowing how to handle his mom. The manipulator was losing control. In mid-January, Stephen tried to call me. I did not answer. He left me a voice message. Mom, I need to talk to you. It is not to ask you for money, just need to talk, please. I deleted it. I was not ready yet. February arrived cold and rainy. One afternoon, while I was watering my lemon tree, Cousin Rick arrived. Aunt Eleanor, I come to tell you something. Tell me, dear. Stephen and Valerie went to ask her parents for money to pay the rent because they were 2 months behind. And Valerie's parents told them they didn't have a dime, that whole story of the family of high society was pure fantasy, that they live in a borrowed little house, and that the dad works as an Uber driver. There it was. The truth that Valerie had hidden so well. The rich family was a tale, an illusion she sold to trap my son. Valerie got hysterical, Rick continued. She screamed at her own mom. Stephen left the house crying. The architecture of lies was crumbling. March brought more news. Mr. Gilbert called me. Mrs. Vance, just so you know, your son and his wife fell 3 months behind on rent. I had to ask them to vacate. I understand. Thanks for notifying me. The boy looked bad, too thin, dark circles. It made me sad, the truth. It hurt. I am not going to lie. Thinking of my son suffering hurt, but it was not my responsibility to save him from the consequences of his decisions. On March 15th, a rainy Sunday, they knocked on my door. I looked through the peephole. It was Stephen, alone, without Valerie. He brought flowers, a bouquet of white daisies, my favorites. He was soaked, crying. I opened the door. Mom? His voice broke. Please, I need to talk to you. Come in. He entered slowly like a guest in his own childhood home. He sat on the edge of the sofa. The flowers trembled in his hands. I don't come to ask you for money, he said immediately. I come to ask for your forgiveness. I sat in front of him. I waited. I was an idiot, Mom, a shitty son. I used you, I ignored you, I humiliated you, and I have no forgiveness. Tears ran down his face uncontrollably. Valerie manipulated me, yes, but I let her do it. Because it was easier. Because I liked the comfortable life we had thanks to you. Because I am a coward. Where is Valerie now? We separated a week ago. When they kicked us out of the apartment and we had to go live in a rented room, she couldn't take it. She said this was not what she had signed up for. She left. Silence. And you. Where do you live? In a room downtown. $400 a month. Shared with another guy. I work double shifts at the hardware store. It barely reaches to eat. I looked at him. I really looked at him. My son. 38 years old, broken, humiliated, defeated, but finally awake. Mom, I don't expect you to forgive me. I don't expect you to help me again. Just needed you to know that I am sorry, that I understand what I lost, and that it was my fault. I got up. I went to the kitchen. I prepared 2 cups of coffee. I returned and gave him one. Stephen, I am going to tell you something, and I need you to listen well. Yes, Mom. I love you. I will always love you, but true love has limits, and you crossed all of mine. I know. If you want us to rebuild our relationship, it will be under my terms, with respect, with honesty, without money involved. Whatever you say, Mom, say. First, therapy. You are going to go to therapy to work on all this. I am going to pay for the first 5 sessions. After you continue." He nodded. "Second, regular visits, every Sunday for lunch, without fail." "Yes." "Third, never, never again ask me to lend you money. If one day you are in a true emergency, we talk. But the favors are over." "Never again, Mom, I swear to you." And fourth, the will stays as it is. It is not revenge, it is protection. If one day you decide you need my money more than my love again, there will be no inheritance to prove you right. It is fine. I understand, and I accept it. The following months were of slow reconstruction. Stephen came every Sunday. At first it was uncomfortable, forced. But little by little, we started to talk, really talk, of how he had lost himself, of how Valerie wrapped him up, of his fear of being alone. He started therapy, and it worked. 6 months later, he had a better job, his own apartment, a dignified life built by himself. And every Sunday, without fail, he arrived at 2 in the afternoon with a gelatin from the market, not because he had to do it, because he wanted to. Today, sitting in my green armchair watching my son wash the dishes after eating, I understood something I should have learned a long time ago. Loving our children does not mean sacrificing ourselves until we disappear. It means teaching them that respect is earned, that dignity is not negotiated, and that true love, the one that is worth it, never asks you to lose yourself to find it. I am 67 years old, and finally I learned to love myself as much as I loved others. And if this story touched your heart, leave me a comment telling me where you are listening from. Give a like if you believe that self-love is not selfishness, it is survival. And subscribe for more stories of women who decided to recover their dignity. Because never, never is it too late to close doors that only bring drafts, and open windows that let in the light we deserve.